Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and welcome to today's discussion where in true Path of Exile fashion, we have a tease about upcoming discussion content. So we've all hopefully been reading and absorbing and getting excited and getting confused and interacting with and asking questions and in general making plans about Path of Exile 1's future in relationship to Path of Exile 2's further announcement, including an upcoming beta little less than a year from now. The aftermath of Exilecon this year feels a lot different in the general community and tenor. Maybe that's just me and my balding opinion, but I feel like things are much different this year after Exilecon than 4 years ago during the first and after the first Exilecon, where there was basically nothing but positive goodwill and good vibes among the community about the promised hope of what would be Path of Exile 2, or otherwise up until that point in time had been codenamed 4.0. I think one of the primary distinctive differences between the two events, and one of the reasons why we're all feeling a little bit different this go around than last time, is simply because Exilecon 4 years ago was all about promise, it was all about excitement, it was all about teasing. It wasn't necessarily about laying concrete foundations and displaying this is exactly what the game is going to be, or moving towards a more exact form and a more exact presentation of what the game would be. So 4 years later, we've all had 4 more years of experience in Path of Exile, playing Path of Exile 1. We've all had 4 years to dissect all of the promises, all of the hopes, and experience all of the different changes in the development cycles and in the development mindset of Path of Exile since the first Exilecon. And so in general, we've all been through, well, a lot in the last 4 years, and so a lot has changed. And so I think a lot of the discussion of what's going on at the moment is framed by that. We've got a lot more to sink our teeth into now. There's a lot more that's concrete, a lot more that's solid about what Path of Exile 2 is going to look like. And so I think that's factoring into some of the general malaise, but also nervous excitedness, or maybe just giddiness that people are feeling now that there's something more concrete to interact with after Exilecon 2 or 2.0, or anyway, which will come out first, Exilecon 4.0 or POE 1 4.0. Anyway, memes aside, what I want to do today is simply give you a preview of 4 discussions that we're going to have over the next several days about all of the different information that we've gotten from Exilecon and how I'm processing it and how the community in general is processing it. And every once in a while, I'll give you my opinion and some anecdotes and some stories, and maybe even some paint appearances along the way. So that's what we're going to be doing around here over the next couple days, is just discussing, and probably next several months, and honestly, probably for the next several years, we'll be discussing Exilecon 2 and all of the aftermath of it. So our first discussion that we're going to take on is going to be PoE 2. What's exciting? What is actually genuinely hype-inducing? What is set your calendars, book your vacations, set aside this date for you and your friends to play Path of Exile 2 and hope and sign up to get into the closed beta? Like, what is exciting about PoE 2 that we know so far? What's genuinely concrete? What can we sink our teeth into? What can we say, nope, this has been shown, this has been said, this is what's been platformed, this is what's been previewed, this is what's coming with Path of Exile 2. This is the direction of this game, of this separate entity, Path of Exile 2. What's exciting about it? What is it that we can hopefully together as a community discuss as things that we are looking forward to that will come out over the next several years, beginning of course with the beta in summer of 2024. So that first discussion, we're just going to focus in on what's to get excited about. Now, in that second discussion, we're going to flip the coin, as it were, and we're going to say, okay, well, what's disappointing about Path of Exile 2? And this discussion has got the potential to last for more than an hour as a YouTube video, and so I'm going to try my best to keep it rather short and concise. I haven't made a whole lot of discussion videos recently, so I'm going to try not to ramble too much. But honestly, there's just a lot of feedback and a lot of concern at the moment about what's being said Path of Exile 2 is going to be. There's comparisons, and the forbidden word that no one's allowed to say, ruthless. Like, there's comparisons that are being made between Path of Exile 2 gameplay, some other AAA title games that have been released recently by companies that will go unnamed in this discussion. There's been a lot of concern, frankly, from the last 4 years of hype buildup into making 4.0 PoE2 into this massive thing that it could never realistically possibly be. Nothing can ever meet everybody's expectations across the board. As soon as you've got one person in the room, you've already got multiple sets of expectations. Then imagine all of the iterations that come in once you put two people in the same room. So there's a lot that folks are discussing as potentially disappointing in PoE2. We'll try and have this be a positive discussion about where folks were hoping PoE2 would be, and ultimately where it's going to be, why that's disappointing, and maybe what are the hopeful things that are out there. That transitions us into discussion number 3 that we're going to have, which is simply Wither Path of Exile 1. Like, where will it go? What will it look like? There's a lot of confusion and a lot of nervousness right now in the community about Path of Exile 2 coming along, and what does that mean for PoE 1? Like, for the last 4 years, any change that's come to PoE 1 has had this kind of layer of a shield up to say, don't worry, Path of Exile 2 4.0 is coming. So we're going to fix it then. And frankly, I think we should say probably longer than 4 years, right? Because 4 years ago was Exilecon. That was when Path of Exile 2, was announced and the hype cycle was getting going and all these other things. Like, I think it's more accurate to say that it's more years than that people have been building up and latching on to what 4.0 is going to be. And so this is multiple years of people just really wondering and hoping and playing a game, and every single change that comes along, every single balance manifesto, every single patch notes, every single nerf and every single buff, every single new change to new rework to an ascendancy, every single new piece of content, right? We've talked a lot over the years about content bloat in Path of Exile 1 and players getting agency to choose which style of content they want to interact with. Like, now there's a whole lot of questions about, well, if PoE 2 is like the main thing, what does that mean for PoE 1? And I thought all of these changes that were going on in PoE 1 were because PoE 2 and PoE 1 were one game. So they're not one game. So there's a lot of people in the community going, can we please have PoE 1 from like 4 years ago back? Can we have that? There's a significant amount of voices in the community that are asking for that. Now, I will cite all my sources in this. We'll interact with community forum posts, with Reddit posts, directly quoting people. What you will not see in a lot of this is me interacting with a lot of what we would say the other big name streamers. A lot of folks, here's a mild disclaimer, a lot of folks at the moment work not for grinding gear games, but their work as streamers is tied to the health, success, and viewership of Path of Exile. Mine is not. So that doesn't mean that my opinion is better. It doesn't mean that my opinion is more informed. It's certainly not. I've been way more out of the loop than in the loop of Path of Exile in general over the last 6 months, and including the year prior. So don't take that to say as me being arrogant here to say, well, you should really listen to me because I'm not getting, my livelihood and my family's livelihood from this. No, I think there's a valid opinion amongst many folks who are working in the streaming world, who are getting paid and supporting their families to play Path of Exile. I think there's a valid opinion coming from those folks. At the same time, there is going to be some bias and some hype and a different set of agenda items and a different set of considerations coming from someone who plays Path of Exile as a part of their job and providing for themselves and their family, as it is going to be for somebody who's just a bald guy who likes to play some games occasionally and who every once in a while lets his kids play some Path of Exile with him. Those are worlds different in terms of perspectives. So we'll talk about Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 and what those two separate games mean and what it means for a lot of these different voices and a lot of these different segments. So I'll quote people, but you're not going to hear me quoting a lot of streamers because I want to get a lot more voices who are speaking up about things than just streamers. That's just the general segment. So there will be a lot of quotes included in that third discussion piece. Then in our fourth discussion piece that will be coming out, we're also going to talk about 322, which is the Auto Battler League. It's called the Trial of the Ancestors. Whether or not this league is a hype or a not so hype league. I'm very excited for this because I think auto battlers are something that I shouldn't say we're all playing. I should say those of us who are older, who are too slow to play RTSs, but still want to play something that's more interactive and maybe quicker than turn-based strategy. we love to play auto battlers. And so Trial of the Ancestors, going back to a minigame format, a minigame formula, to Path of Exile as an expansion content, as a league update, I think this is a good direction of things. Path of Exile, in my opinion, was in its heyday when it was trying to incorporate in other styles of game mechanics and other genres of games and smashing them into the Path of Exile universe and seeing what we could do with them. Whether that was procedurally generated endless dungeons like Delve, whether that was massive strategic planning and setups of mechanics and of long-term payoffs like the Syndicate Operative board, or whether that was something as simple as Blight, like here's some additional content and it's a tower defense game. There's a lot of different styles of genre of games that have been incorporated into Path of Exile with some major success, in my humble opinion. I've enjoyed those leagues that I've mentioned here before. It's something that Path of Exile and grinding gear games in general has kind of strayed away from recently, and most notably because a lot of their development team has been working on Path of Exile 2. So, with this upcoming Auto Battler League for Trial of the Ancestors, I'm very excited to see how does the embracing of bringing a genre of game back into the Path of Exile scope and mind frame, what does that do for things? And also, there's a lot of different playstyles that you could adopt for characters in an auto battler format. So we've only seen a little bit with the trailers, but there's a lot to discuss here. You could potentially be playing a slower, tankier character and still win your auto battler sequence as you go into the trial. You could be playing a zoomy character and also come up with equally good results, potentially. We don't know yet whether there's going to be like a speed cap, whether there's going to be like a no-hit sort of bonus, kind of like Sanctum. We just don't know yet. So there's a lot of things that are to be found and to be explored and to be discussed with the upcoming 322 Auto Battler League, air quotes there, and whether or not it's hype or not. I am excited for it, but I'm sure there's lots of reasons why maybe other players are not, so we'll discuss that in our fourth discussion. Well, how's that for coming back with a grinding gear game sort of style preview of discussions and content that is to come? Anyway, I thought we would go a little meta there with our joke. So here's the 4 conversations that we're going to chat about in the upcoming couple of days. Hopefully these are discussions that you enjoy. I look forward to hearing down below in the comments which of these conversation pieces or which of these feelings and emotions you are struggling with at the moment. What did you come away from Exilecon feeling today? Before we get into the lengthy discussions that each one of these videos is going to host, where are you at today coming away from Exilecon? Where are your feelings, your trust, your satisfaction, your excitement levels, your meh levels? Like, where are you at as you're coming off of the weekend that was Exilecon? I'd love to hear all that down below in the comments. As always, I'm sure I've made mistakes today, and I'd love for you to point those out. So thanks so much in advance for helping me and for helping us all as a community hopefully correct whatever bad information I'm putting out there. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope the upcoming 322 Auto Battler Trial of the Ancients League that comes out in like 15 or 16 days, I hope that is the league, if you play it, that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.